Hello there and welcome to the conversation. We're going to be talking today about remote audits. Short-term fix, or are they a long-term solution? So on the call with me today, I have two of my colleagues, James Flynn and Jennifer Crandall, and we're going to go around and introduce them. But first of all, I better tell you who I am. I'm Andy Kerridge. I operate Wyvern Food Solutions, who are in the business of food safety provision to large and small companies. My clients include blue chip down to startups, basically providing HACCP advice, process advice, and so on. I also do foreign supplier verification. I'm a PCQI, so my role is global. Over to you, James.
Yep, my name is James Flynn. I'm the CTO and founder of Priority. We are a software company that helps food manufacturers and food importers digitize their food safety management systems and supply chains. Over to you, Jennifer.
All right, my name's Jennifer Crandall. I own and operate Safe Food en Route. It is also a food safety consulting company. We're based in the US. We focus on supplier compliance management and the FSVP as well. I'm also a PCQI, and I operate a team of subcontractors that work with me to do that work. Okay,
let's get started then. So back to the title, which was remote audit, short-term fix or long-term solution. Obviously, with the close downs, inability to travel, countries, closed borders, etc., it's very difficult, in fact impossible, for on-site audits to be performed. So one of the solutions that is coming through is a suggestion of remote audits or desktop audits, and there is a clear distinction between the two. The GFSI has put in place a provision for desktop audits with an assessment by the certification body, and that gives the possibility of an extension of their certification. Not all the certification bodies have accepted that. One certification body or scheme owner rather is not permitting an extension, and that is bound to cause some serious issues. Then you talk, the FDA have also now allowing desktop audits of their FSVP program. There are, however, other ways of doing this, and a true remote audit would combine that desktop with more of using modern technology to put a view of what is happening in that factory into or onto the screen of the auditor, albeit he may be many thousand miles away. Now we've got a CTO on the conversation, so we're talking about technology. I'm going to pass over to James to give us a little bit of an update on what the technology is like here.
Well, I think there's certainly a couple of solutions that are available out there at the moment. One which is fairly well established through a large organization, NSF, have got a solution called iSucceed. That's EYE, and then the word succeed. And that solution is based on Google Smart Glass, or Google Smart, well, they call it Glass, Google Glass. And basically what that is a pair of glasses with a kind of a virtual reality heads-up display over one eye. It's got a built-in camera, a built-in microphone, and so on. And it allows you to do audits and various other inspection type of activities. Now, that's been around for a little while. And Google Glass as a technology had a lot of hype about it around 2014, 15, 16, and it kind of died off a little bit because technology issues, adoption wasn't really there, and so on. So that's been on the kind of horizon for a wee while now. But one solution I had a look around prior to today's podcast, and this looks absolutely amazing. The reason it looks amazing is because almost anyone could use this today, as in right now. So there is a solution called View6, I think it's called. We'll put this in the show notes later. And they've got a smart glasses technology, which is effectively a whole Android operating system inside a pair of glasses. And what it does is it uses applications off your phone in this heads-up display, and they do look a little bit like this, but they're bolder. If you can imagine, if anyone's old enough to know who Roy Orbison is, that's who you're going to look like. Or even Elvis, if you're of that era. Elvis used to wear these big glasses,
Yeah.
So the sideburns don't come with them, but these glasses from this company are fantastic. They would allow you to literally do something like what we're doing now, a Zoom meeting, and I could see you guys in my field of vision in front of me, right? And that means that you could instruct me to go and look at a machine, go look at some documentations, take a picture of the procedure, video someone actually preparing the product or processing product or something like that. It would also potentially allow us to actually do an audit by virtual reality, So you've got there's like a touchpad you've got on your laptop. You've got one of these on the side of your glasses. It's a little bit thicker like this. And you move the menus around just by swiping and double tapping and this kind of thing. So you could actually carry out an entire audit by tapping, pressing the buttons, selecting the yes, no's, taking a picture, uploading a video, and so on. And I'm so excited about this now that I'm making an announcement right now today that after having checked this stuff out, we are definitely going to build something on that platform because it looks absolutely terrific. And I would like to talk a little bit about the business case around this stuff, because if you think about it, if you're sending an auditor to go do an audit or an FDA inspector to go do an inspection, then generally speaking, there's going to be some travel involved. There's going to be a hotel accommodation. There's going to be the dead time that person, well, hopefully they arrive alive, but there's going to be the dead time of the journey that they can't use productively because they're, on a train, a plane, in an airport, whatever it is. And they're away from home, away from their family as well. Not to mention COVID-19, if you're traveling, then you're putting yourself at risk. And I know that's been a real issue and a real worry for both auditors and people in factories being audited in the last few weeks. One customer this morning telling me that. But anyway, back to the business case. The business case is very simple. The average cost of getting to and carrying out an audit over 1 or 2 days is probably at least £500 to £600, dollars, whatever you want to call it. So somewhere in the region of between £500 to £700, and between, say, $600 and $800, just to get there, live, eat, and do the actual work. These smart glasses cost £700 or about $800, $850. So you could post these or send them by courier for $50. They could get there. You can then get someone to put them on at the other side and then instruct them to walk through the factory, go to the records that need to be looked at and viewed and everything else, and see everything. And be able to do almost as much as you could as if you were actually there. And the smart glasses would pay for themselves because you wouldn't have to pay for these travel costs, etc., in one single audit. Now, if that's not a business case, I don't know what is. But there are some limitations to this. Clearly, it's better if you know the factory in advance. And if you don't know the factory in advance, then perhaps having a layout of the factory where everything is so that you can direct who is, where you want them to go and what you want them to look at, etc. So a good knowledge of the factory is certainly important. But I'm convinced this is the future, and we're definitely going to be investing our time and resources into that in the coming weeks and months. So our order is going in almost immediately for that. So that's one of the things, that pieces of technology that we could leverage right away to help with the current restrictions, and there's likely to be further restrictions. This is, as we expect, this is going to take a while to go away completely. So we're going to have to take account of these things going forward.
Jennifer, what do you think of that then?
Oh well, it's interesting. Definitely, I had a couple of questions that I thought might be things to look into on the technology side of it, because like you said, you're looking at it through somebody else's eyes, but if you are broadcasting it to the auditor's computer and they can see and interact with the people that are wearing the glasses, then could they record it? Do they have zooming capabilities where they could take control and look closer at something? So that they were able to inspect it just a little bit more, like maybe, if they're looking at a stainless steel tank, they can zoom in and look at, a closer piece of equipment to see if it's cleanliness or, and that sort of thing. And then that kind of brings up the idea of poor lighting in a facility. If it's poor lighting, how to overcome that obstacle, which we know that would already be a problem with the GFSI audit schemes. If you don't have that's just in general not good if you don't have good lighting. But those are some of the obstacles that I could see that would be difficult to overcome just immediately in my head.
Well, I mean, a couple of points to answer that. These things have got a flashlight on them as well, so that if you are in low lighting, you can do that kind of thing. I do believe they have digital zoom, these ones I've been looking at, but I need to check that out in a bit more detail. And certainly the iSucceed ones that are there already, they've got augmented reality, or what do they call it? Augmented reality, or imagery overlaid on the kind of the scene in front of you, which allows you to, for example, see where the swabs were taken on the last visit, and this kind of thing. These ones I've been looking at, they also have the capability to scan barcodes. So they could be used at goods inwards rather than having a handheld scanner, which is a source for cross-contamination after all. You could simply look at something, press the button, and you've got, because it's your own personal glasses, you're not cross-contaminating with someone else that's been using that scanner.
Or losing the scanner.
Exactly, so it becomes a part of the personal equipment. You're effectively wearing a computer in a pair of glasses that you can build apps for. So get this, if you can imagine that you can build an app for an Android phone or an iPhone or tablet or whatever, you can build apps for these things too. So you can integrate it with the likes of Zoom or Skype. You can integrate it with 3i Verify, our solution, to carry out an audit or whatever. And I think that's what's really interesting about this technology as opposed to the likes of Google Glass. I'm sure Google Glass can do quite a lot of this stuff as well. But I got so excited about this thing, I just had to really look in so much depth about it.
Sorry, James, you mentioned the cost of the system that you've been looking at. What's the comparative cost of Google Glass or iSucceed?
Well, you can now, you didn't used to be able to buy a pair of the Google Glasses without going through an official reseller, typical enterprise market tactics, but now these days you can buy a pair of Google Glasses for about $1,000. And Google's Google, so they're going to have integration into Android and apps and stuff. I fully expect that will be there. But I think what's different between Google Glass and this technology is that this new, they're called Blade glasses, and I think they're designed to be more fashionable. The big problem with virtual reality headsets and this type of technology is it all looks a bit clunky. Even these headphones, they're a bit lighter than perhaps they used to be. But having this big thing sticking out and coming across here is a bit cyborg sort of style, and you want to get adoption, not people feeling like they don't want to put this on because it'll be ridiculed, sort of thing, So, and I think that's a real breakthrough here. These look, I would say they look. Hey, and I'm no fashion guru, as Gwyneth will tell you, but I think they look quite fashionable. They look quite sort of in terms of the chunky frames that they've got. They've got sun protection. You can get them with prescription lenses as well. You know, it's got this full computing and connected capability, which just opens up so many possibilities.
James, and I mean, do these operate independently, or do you need to have your mobile phone in the back pocket? I mean, reception. I mean, I've tried doing remote, physical audits in some restaurants where we couldn't get any Wi-Fi whatsoever.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you've got a phone connection, is it going to operate off that, or how do they operate?
I think it can operate both off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth to your mobile phone. So you've got you know, if you've got one but not the other, then you know you've got the kind of cross connectivity that's there. And you're right, you know, you're not going to be able to get Wi-Fi connection in every single factory in the land, because quite often they just don't have it out on the shop floor, for example. But what you could do is you could go ahead and have an app on your phone, which this thing's connected to, it's tethered to that, and you could record video. Right. And that video would then be ready for upload later, and you know, as part of the app. So you could absolutely operate offline, take pictures, record video, and so on. And you could have the app operating offline as well that you've built for this. So you could be going through, right, I want you to inspect the washroom. Right, I want you to take the temperature and take a video of you taking the temperature and show me it. I want you to take a swab and show me the registration number of that swab, their serial number, and you know, I want you to email me the results when that comes through, or take an ATP swab or whatever. There are so many data points that could be done in this way without someone having to get on a plane, stay in a hotel, put themselves at risk, waste their time with all of that dead time, and to do it for not more than the cost of it's done today, but probably less. You know, when you think about the fact that the glasses themselves is a one-time cost. So you know, in an audit, if you're Andy, how many audits do you do a month? Not under normal circumstances.
Like it can be 7 or 8. I mean, each audit might be, you know, you got your travel time. You know, might take you half, 3/4 of a day to get there, flights and all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Right. So if you took all of that cost in a month, you know, rough finger in the air, you're saying 7 or 8 times. Let's call it an average of £500 a time. So that's £3,500, £4,000, or you know, $5,000-6,000 just to get there, be there, and everything else. And these glasses, you could send them through the post for 50 quid, you know, on a courier, guaranteed to get there, guaranteed to get back. You know, simple instructions, put them on, this is what you do, and you know, your cost is down by 80%.
But I mean, sorry, Jennifer, I just want to clarify this point. Is I mean, many factories we know have the audit overload. You know, it's Tuesday, it must be Sainsbury's. Wednesday, it must be, I don't know, Walmart or whatever. Could a site have its own set of glasses that the auditor can dial into and say, right, I want you to do this? Because I'm thinking here, you know, there's not just the audits, there's the product development. There's you know, I've got an issue on that line, and it involves you know, it's a canning factory in Madagascar. You know, it takes me 3 days to get there.
Exactly.
Or
an engineer needs to look at something specialist or whatever, you know, or you know, the pest control guy can't get in, so like, could you go around and check these bait stations? I'll tell you what to do. You know, all of these things are eminently possible because you can build apps for them. And this is where I really now feel that food safety has to go. If it's going to be digitized, it needs to be digitized like we do with 3i Verify, from the supply chain up. And it now needs to be also digitized from the audit up into all of these things. And you bring up another interesting point, and I'm going to shut up in a minute and let Jennifer speak. You bring up another interesting point, Andy, and the idea that 4 different people need to go to the same factory and ask the same questions is just crazy. So why couldn't you have a repository of questions that have been asked recently, or evidence on things that have been gathered recently, and have that in the cloud, so that an auditor could, before they even do a remote audit, they could look at the library of other audits that have been done and decide, you know what, that looks pretty well covered, but I'm interested in this. And then they can focus in on something that's not been covered before, and that information could be shared amongst everyone. But I think that only works if the customer or the site being audited is in control of that, because it's their data, so it comes back to ownership of data.
The issue you often get, and it's unrewarding as an auditor. It's timely, costly, and unrewarding as a factory, is the number of audits that are copy paste of GFSI standards.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that over the last 3-4 years, and I am trying to steer away from it, because I don't see the added value for anybody in the chain, and it's a tick box exercise that is of limited value. Yeah. So if if it isn't, that needs to be fixed before, and this is where one standard accepted by all sort of falls apart if people aren't accepting that standard, even though they supposedly sign up to it, and have audits that run over the same old ground.
Yeah. Well, let's get Jennifer's view on that. Yeah, Jennifer,
yeah. Yeah, well, I see a lot of different applications for it whenever I'm starting to just listen to the ideas. And, when you look at the GFSI auditor's point of view, so the certifying body sends an auditor in to do the work, that might be a good application. If FDA needs some type of regulatory, or any of the other regulatory might need somebody to be on site to do the work, maybe they hire somebody that is in the local region. So say it's a foreign supplier for the FDA that they need to send somebody in, they can send a trusted individual in, not necessarily somebody in the factory, but somebody that they work, in a partnership with that's more local to their area, that can walk through and do that. But to your point too, I was just thinking, like, all the GFSI schemes require that you have an internal auditor. So could the internal auditor be remote, working at home, and maybe there's somebody that's in the office that normally does, like data management of some of the lab paperwork, and they normally would do the internal audit on a monthly basis of some sort. Maybe they send somebody in the factory through it, and they record all the notes at home remotely. So that was another thing I thought. And then coming out of the grocery store industry, so I know that there is nothing that beats that face-to-face personal interaction of a second party audit, of sending, your people into it. So that part, that's the only one that I really have a hard time with. And some of it I think will be, like if they could be on the phone with them while they're doing the walkthrough, and they could see it and physically see it.
You can talk to them while they're there. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
You can literally do a Zoom meeting, and they instead of seeing their face, you're seeing what they see, and they're seeing your face or whatever you want them to see. You might have a checklist shared on your screen in Zoom, and said, I want you to go look at this, go look at this, go look at this, go look at this. So even right now, without developing any software whatsoever, you could do this tomorrow. You could buy a pair and you could do this like right now. You just need to get your head around it and go with it. But I wonder about retail, or the retail space, because you've got a lot of experience in retail, Jennifer, in terms of supplier compliance and so on. How do you think retailers might take to that as an alternative way, and a way of keeping their supply chain compliance costs down, for example?
Yeah, well, I mean, that second party audit is exactly where I would see it being useful, because they could send the glasses to the supplier, they could learn more about their facility, and they could even do an unannounced audit on it. Don't even tell them what's going on. Send them the pair of glasses with instructions on it, and tell them, when you receive these, call me, and we're going to do a random audit on you. And have that person, whoever's on the receiving end of the information, be prepared. They know when they sent it, right? They know when they sent the glasses, so they could be on that other side.
We need to get a drone to drop the glasses on.
Well, American, a mail carrier,
Amazon,
or
Amazon will doing all this stuff.
Amazon, you
Yeah.
get whoever, you know, but the point is that the retailer would be the one that would send them, and they could look into the facility unannounced. But that actually would be an advantage, because typically all of that stuff is arranged. And you think about when an audit is scheduled, and this is a really good application for it, because you could do unannounced audits and catch them completely off guard. And nothing against the facilities, but we all know that the trend is, if we know that an auditor's coming, or a customer or a potential customer, we are shining this facility up the best we can and making it as, you know, beautiful as it could ever be. And bosses come through every single entity when they know somebody's coming that's scrutinizing their facility. So they will make sure that things are hidden, put away, and you won't get it in its natural state. So it's a really good opportunity to maybe start an unannounced audit plan. Yeah, so Andy's got a point, I know.
It's all right. Do you see a kickback from the facilities? Because I know many facilities don't like recording devices on their sites.
Yeah.
Whether it be cameras, whether it be, well, basically a phone, because nowadays everybody has cameras on their phones. They've been resistant to the use of, you know, tablets for doing audits and whatever. So hence, you know, my comment earlier about sites having their own glasses, but they're not controlling where that person is looking. And, you know, that whole thing about something being caught on a film, on a recording, that they're not in control of. So what do you think of that, James? You're the sort of data.
Yeah, I think
here.
that there definitely has to be policies around these things and controls, you know, so that they are not abused or used to damage a company you know, unnecessarily or unwarranted, or maliciously even. But I also, and maybe I'm living in utopia here, but I also think that what we really need, if we're really serious about food safety culture, we need to be more open and more transparent. We need to be more collaborative. Now, what if we turn this on its head and we say that auditing and inspection is the 1980s way of doing things, right? In fact, it's beyond that. It's the 1950s way of doing things. It's W. Edwards Deming, Plan, Do, Check, Act, right? So what if we took it into the next generation and started saying, well, look, you know, we're not going to audit you. We know what the standards are. We're not going to audit you anymore. What we're going to do is we're going to proactively work with you on areas where we know that we need to improve things. So we're going to have an improvement project. And some of my customers, you know, like Weetabix, for example, they've got people whose job is to be a quality improvement manager. That's their whole role, is about improving processes and improving procedures. And there's loads of them, you know, and it's all about finding the things that we can do better, finding the things that need to be fixed, and in working with the necessary specialists. But that can be expensive for a food company. So if you can have a quick 15-minute call with someone who's an expert in something, hey, how would you fix this? Here, let me show you. And you can literally show all of that. Then I think that's very, very enabling for a business. And also, if you can share the things that the customer wants you to share with them in a secure way, and security is important in all of this, and policies are important in all of this, then that develops trust between you and that customer, your business and that customer. And ultimately, you're going to get more business than your competitors will, because you're developing a proper working relationships. Problems happen in real life, you know. Our software is not completely bug-free. Things happen. What's important is how you deal with it and how you work with the customer, rather than just allowing the problems to fester and cause further issues down the line on that. But yeah, good IT policies, security, and so on are important. But ultimately, good food businesses should have nothing to hide from their customers if they're truly working together as partners.
I think I'm going to add to that, though, because from the retailer, and I've been in the manufacturing industry as well. So one of the big concerns is, yeah, somebody might snap a picture or a video of something that we don't want them to see, and then they hold it against us. That's one point of view that is there. But there's also a lot of resistance on pictures because of proprietary information. So they have, they have a piece of equipment that they don't want any of their competitors to know about, and they don't want that to get into the wrong hands. So I think, to add on to the security conversation from the IT standpoint of view, I would also say, good contracts with the people, legal contracts with the people that are conducting the audits. Now, obviously, if it's a regulatory person, you're not going to get that same kind of like a non-disclosure agreement in place. But if you're talking to a certifying body or to even an independent contractor, a consultant that's coming in and doing work, obviously a legal document between the two companies to say this is not going to be shared inappropriately is going to be also something that needs to be considered.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. I think we're coming towards the end of this conversation. So in the last 2 or 3 minutes, perhaps some remarks about where you see us going now, the market for this. Because we've got Google Glass or whatever it's called, I Succeed. We've got this system that James has seen. Is there anything else out there? What else should we be looking for?
Yeah, I think there's lots of other technology out there. You've got your standard kind of tablet, smartphone-based applications that are there, which tend to be very narrow in their scope. Like you've got an auditing app, you've got a documents app, you've got a whatever, So I also think, even that is 1980s technology. It's looking at, a computer program that's isolated, that's, siloed, and so on. And what we need, if the COVID-19 has taught us anything, it's taught us that we're going digital. It's all about the social interaction. What we're doing right now, it'd be great to be together and have a beer and all that kind of stuff. But, I'm in Tenerife, Andy's in England, and Jennifer is in Kentucky, right? Mm-hmm. So, we're able to connect in this way because of technology. We're able to share views in a way that just wasn't possible, 10, 15 years ago. But it's now changing. The reason it's changing is because all of this technology has moved off the desktop, through the laptop, through the tablet, onto your phone, and now onto wearables. So it's the wearables aspect of this that, yes, that can be intrusive, but you've got control over that. You can switch it off, you can have policies and so on. But it's the wearables aspect with video conferencing straight in here. I mean, this is the stuff of Star Trek 20, 30 years ago. The ability to see a hologram of someone standing there. I mean, that is more or less available right now, to do this kind of thing. And so it's about what we can do with that next, overlaying data points, overlaying places where cross-contamination happened before, overlaying the hotspots of swab results in a factory, these kinds of things. It's using the data, connecting it all up, and being able to do some real magic with it rather than just bury everything in the email trail or bury everything in the Excel spreadsheets and get no value out of all of the time that you spent gathering that information or making it up in some cases, So that's where I really see things going, and I'm very excited about this new technology, and I really hope that we now start to see companies embracing that, because COVID-19, as bad as it is, it definitely is the digitization virus. It is forcing everyone to go online, go social, get used to the technology. It's accelerating adoption, and I think it's going to make a rapid entry into industry now over the next 6 months. Not COVID-19, but the new technology, the use of new technology has just been given a massive boost to help solve some of these problems.
So the only other thing I would add about it, I keep hearing the word glass, and looking at glass and brittle plastics policies. The other thing I was thinking about was PPE, that is the conversation of all countries right now. We do not have enough PPE. So if there's a way to protect it, build it in so that it's not glass, you know, maybe these are things that we can push on to the manufacturers of it to start thinking about ways that we could put it into food factories or into medicinal factories too, or pharmaceuticals. I'm sure that it would be very applicable there as well. So there's a lot of use cases once you start diving into it a little bit further. It's not just the food industry, but could be utilized anywhere that needs to be audited, and thinking about what their policies are for protecting their consumers and their people.
Yeah, I mean, people already wear glasses in food factories, so I think that's largely covered, to be honest. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah. Well, these just happen to be more expensive glasses, really, and that's, you know, people will take more care of them. But yes, I would imagine, you know, there's two elements there. One is the glass element, and then the frame and all the electronics and whatever that go in there. And what happens if they fall off in a machine? Well, you do what you would do if your normal pair of glasses fall into a machine. It's not going to be any different there. I think, okay, to close this down, I think we, you know, we've got the technology. I think the COVID-19 has also highlighted the issues of paper-based systems. You know, people working from home, it's great if there are the systems are digitized and they can view on their screen. But if you're trying to work from home with 2,000 sheets of paper and that's stuck in a factory, you know, 10, 15 miles away, that's not a lot of good. So that, you know, combined with the technology of the glasses and digitization, I see substantial changes coming, as James indicated, over the next 6 months to 12 months. Whether other organizations are as agile and nimble in adapting to this remains to be seen. I suspect some are going to fall, embarrassingly so.
Yeah. Go ahead, James.
Sorry, Jennifer, I was just going to make one point in that, and I'm, without naming any names, that there are a lot of dinosaurs out there when it comes to how you know, standards are formulated and you know, checked on and all these kind of things, you know, but not just one organization. There's several organizations that move far too slowly and you know, are not embracing technology. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to echo that same thing. So the larger companies that have legacy systems are probably going to be the ones that would resist and try to find their own solutions. So they're probably already thinking about things that they could do, but it'll take them 15 months to 36 months to really put them into effect. So it will be slow for them. I think the target type of companies that this could assist is those medium-sized companies that are still you know, nimble enough that they can make changes and adapt to things like this. So it might be a perfect time for a new player to come into the market or expand their services for some of the consulting firms or, you know, anybody else that might be emerging, like with technology, like adding their technology to their current processes on the manufacturing side as well.
Great. Well, thanks very much, James and Jennifer. Thanks everyone for the conversation, and we'll meet again soon.